Welcome back to Crypto Odyssey. It's Jason here, back at you with another video on Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, and the bear market that we've been in for the past year or so. Now, price action, as we will get into quite shortly, has just been boring for, I don't know what, the past 6 months or so. So I haven't been making videos. We have just been, in the dire straits of Dante's Inferno, going from layer to layer, and we haven't really seen much hope in the market. I do think that we are at the later stages now of this bear market. The past week or so, if we look at the coin market cap here, we see that cryptos have been up. Yeah, we've got a meager 2.47% on the index here. Bitcoin's up 3%. XRP is, down 2.5%, which is a bit sad. Hyperliquid up 4.4%. ETH 2.5%. I mean, we're scratching at peanuts here, but we're seeing some hope return to the market. If we look at the fear and greed, now this is quite interesting because you can see that we haven't been in extreme fear now. The last time we were was back in July. Yeah, the 1st of July was the last time we read 17 on the fear and greed. And that's where we had the low come in on Bitcoin, about 63,000 or so. Now we're sitting around 65k. Let's just have a look. Is it 65? Yeah, well, we're scratching 64.9. But there is hope here that, we're a 40 neutral reading, which is quite a bit away from extreme fear and fear. So there is some hope returning to the market. Now, the reason why I want to look at this fear and greed index is because if we look at the extreme fear sections, they have historically marked some significant lows. If we look back in 2025, before we had a move from 83k to 115k, we printed these two extreme fear signals. Again, back when we had the extreme dump back in February, I believe it was, and January, but February was that was a disgusting period where Bitcoin formed that low at 70k, around 70k, before we dumped even further down to 57k or so. We were printing extreme fear. I mean, we printed at 8 reading back then. That's crazy. I don't know historically we printed an extreme fear of 5, which was back in February. So that actually went down as 5. Went low. Can't even speak today. My brain has just farted for a second. Jesus. That went down as far as 5 on the extreme fear index. So again, we've had a printing of 30 and 20. So we're coming out of that extreme fear. Are we going to see some positive price action in the future? Potentially. Now let's jump into the charts to see what price action is doing. So we're here on the 4 hourly, and I've got a parallel channel on the charts here. If you look at the beginning of this channel, we started at the end of July, at the beginning of August, and historically August has been a terrible month for Bitcoin. But we started so far quite positively. We are up roughly about 4.6% for August, which is an outlier in terms of statistics. I think we've only, I don't know the specific number, but 2 or 3 times that we've been positive. I think for the most part, August is a negative, bloody red month. So is this a sign that 60k has been a strong base for us? Could it be the macro low? We'll have to see how price action moves for the next few months. But in terms of a short to medium term low, it could well be. Okay. Now the reason why I've drawn this parallel channel is because we've respected it quite well. If we look at obviously this outlier here, it was quickly recovered by this vector green candle, which took us up to the top of this channel. And we've been respecting the middle line, which has been acting as support. Whenever we've held that, we've come to the top. Whenever we've broken it, we've come to the bottom, and vice versa. Right now, we are testing that middle line. And as far as our CPR data, it has printed a monthly R1 target of 62,200 or so. So this could be a potential target from our monthly pivot, which was 62K.3, which we seem to have formed a nice double bottom. And we're now working our way upwards. We could be working our way up towards that monthly target. Bit of sideways action for August before we go higher, potentially reaching that monthly R1 target. That could be a potentiality. Now I just want to jump onto the next chart, which is our SuperTrend indicator. If we look at the daily chart here, we can see that we have flipped a buy signal for Bitcoin on this SuperTrend indicator. The last time that we printed a buy signal was back in April. So that's what, 4 or 5 months or so? May, June, July, August. So 4 months since we've printed a buy signal. And the last time we printed that, we rallied about 17%. If we're going to do the same this time, 17% takes us up round about to where I've drawn this fancy circle, which shows where the next resistance lies. Obviously, this bear market is still continuing until I won't be confident until we break about 82K, where we can say, okay, the low is in. And then that will be a very nice W bottom pattern. Yeah, breaking out of this entire range, which we've been in for, a very long time now. I mean, this since February, basically, where we had that large dump. And we've just been trading sideways. We came, sweep the lows, but it seems that we are testing now this upper region. If we get to our monthly R1 line, there's no reason why we can't go higher. And that would be a signal potentially that the macro low is in. Another signal, if we're looking at the daily here, is look at the volume. This is the first time that we have printed a green candle that is significantly higher than the prior. And this has been for a very long time now. The last time we saw any sign of a green candle that was higher was probably this one, which isn't that much, was back in the 2nd of July, where we saw this little rally from the bottom. But that's not that significant relative to everything else. I mean, if we're going to go back, it's March time or so, and that was just after the large dump that we had in February. So could this be a signal that Bitcoin is going to be making a move, and this 60K base is our base? Who knows? I mean, the markets have been boring. Bear markets end when it is boring. They sneak up upon us. And honestly, if we're going to be going above 65,000, 66, 67, these are all just buying opportunities for the next 3 or 4 years. Yeah. At the end of the day, this is not financial advice. This video is just for entertainment purposes only, and for those that enjoy cryptocurrency and learning about technical analysis. But in terms of an opportunity, that's what I'm looking at the moment. I believe that we are at the end of this bear market, or in the later stages. And before I end this video, I want to jump onto another chart, a bit of a long-term chart, which is proven to be quite promising for the future. Now, if we jump to the end, or rather to the beginning, we're going back in the day here, 2018, good old days. Look at this green rectangle, and if we look at the bottom, we have Williams VIX, which is an indicator that shows us market bottoms. Now, it is not an indicator that tells us exactly the time where the market is bottoming. It gives us a general idea, okay, which ultimately comes after a large drop. So if we look at what drop we had before we had this first candle print, from the highs to the lows, we saw about a 68% drop, roughly. Let's just make sure we get that on the nose. Yeah, about 68%. I was on the nose in the first time. So we started to print that, and then we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 candles. Each candle is 3 weeks. Yeah, so this is a period from the 28th of May 2018 to the 11th of March. So about 10 months or so, where Bitcoin went down or sideways and down ultimately. So we did have a further drop, which is spiked. We also printed a higher green candle cluster, showing us that we're coming towards the end of the bear market. The bottoming is forming, so to speak. And ultimately, once we printed after that a grey candle, that's where we saw this bull market start. From the first grey candle that formed, we pumped 300%. You know, that is not insignificant. That's 300%. I mean, that's good money right there. Obviously, we had this black swan event, which I don't think we can consider. This was the FTX collapse, I believe, or no, it wasn't the FTX collapse. That was the COVID dump, yeah, which is a black swan event. So I don't think we have to worry so much about that unless you know, the world is a fucked up place. So anything could happen, right? Anything could happen. But again, those green clusters right there is an indicator of a market bottom forming. If we look back now, this was an interesting time where we had this dump. If we look at what the dump was here before we had that before we had the green candle form, it was about 54%. And then we had this cluster of green candles, only 3 this time, so about 9 weeks before, where we just went sideways and down, only a very little bit down here. This was about about 7% before we had the last run to the upside. What happened when we printed that grey candle? We went up. How much this time from the lows? About 132%. Yeah, and then we had our bear market. And our bear market, how long did it last? Until, well, actually we want to go from where we printed the first green candle. So this was from the 9th of May to the 2nd of January. So this is less time than the previous. The previous was about 10 months. This is about 6 months or so. Yeah. Now, what was the drop? Just a second. So the drop prior, what was the drop prior? This time it was 73%. And then afterwards, we did not have a larger low form. It was only about, I think about 10%. Let's have a look. Yeah, about 11%, 11% or so, which is an hour, which is different from the previous bear market where we had this dump, which is an extra 50% or so. So again, this large cluster of green candles was telling us that a market bottom is forming. Once we printed that last grey candle, or the first grey candle after this cluster of green, that's where we saw a magnanimous bull market form. Now, what are we doing now? We have been forming this cluster of green candles. Is this an indicator to tell us that the bull market is going to be starting, or rather we're in the late stages of this bear market? Because this is a market bottom indicator. It finds market bottoms. What's interesting here is we've got this little split where we started to print that grey candle. Historically, whenever we've printed these grey candles, they've marked the beginnings of the bull markets. This was a fake out. This was a move, though, nonetheless, of 27%, but it was a dead cat bounce, and we ultimately formed another low. But what have we been doing? We've been forming our market bottom, according to this indicator. Now, as I've said at the beginning of this video, August is supposedly a negative month, but the data is telling us potentially we could see some upside here with the monthly R1 target, with the SuperTrend indicator on the daily flipping bullish, as well as the Williams VIX telling us that a market bottom is forming. And this is a long-term indicator. We could print, 3, 4, 5, 6 months. But if we look at how much we printed so far, I think this is about 6 or 7 months. Historically, this was 7 months, 6 or 7 months. This was about 10 months or so. We're in the bull mark here for potentially a bull market forming in the next few months or so. So if we go 10 months or so, so January, let's say October, could we? Potentially. If anything, if we extend it to 12 months, then we're looking at November, December. I think that we're in the later stages of the bear market here, and this is opportunity. So if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a thumbs up and subscribe. It helps out the channel, and I'm going to be pumping out daily videos, or as many videos as I can when I have the time to do so. And if you enjoy, obviously subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.